live. All right, we are hopefully live. I'm going to give this a few seconds. And
we're down to 4.
We're down to 4, but I'm hoping that Ricky is coming. Ivan can't make it with us this week. So it's going to hopefully either be 4 or 5. And that's totally okay. That way we actually can spend more time talking about the tracks. So I would like to thank everyone for being here with us again. And, now would be a perfect time to start shouting out those area codes. We had, a little ludicrous area code action going on during the last time. I'm actually representing 215, even though I live in New York. I represent Philly when it comes with my area code. And one of the reasons why I've never changed it is because it's so close to 205, which is Alabama's area code. So just one number off. So that's one reason why I haven't changed it. So we do have some awesome people with us already. So we're ready to get this party started. We have Marilyn. Thank you so much for being here. You were with us past 2 times. Thank you so much, Audria, to being here. Yes, 404, the ATL, like the original 404 before 770. Mm-hmm. And we got Nikki in the house. Hi, Nikki. It's always a pleasure to have you here. We got 510. I don't know about that one. Somebody's got to help me out. Let me know, Gina, where 510 is. And Raka, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, 313. We got Becky out in 805, which I think is Cali. I'm not sure. I'm testing my knowledge. We got a 312, Chicago in the house. And we got Maryland's representing Detroit, 313. It's Detroit, but she's in the ATL. We got Patrick Courthouse. I love Courthouse. Thank you for being with us again. We got Tia from 908. We got Joey Coco 99 from Texas. We got Blade Brown, one of our favorites. You always come with the comments with 747. We got my triplet, Camila, with 312773. And Camila is going to be joining us the next couple of after salons, which I'm super excited about. And let's see, we got GM 215, Millie Jackson. I love me some Millie Jackson. And then I doubt you're the real, the one Millie Jackson, but if you were, that would be fantastic. 214 from Deborah, and we got Karen from the ATL. And let's see, we got Cabria, my other triplet, also representing Chi-Town. And so we got enough, to me, we got enough to get this party started. So, wait, we got to welcome Cassandra. So we got another Purple Nation from the ATL. And then Camila says, I love Ricky's tea. Can someone tell those people to create women's teas? I am so with you, my triplet. I don't know what's up when they do not rock the ladies' teas. It's all about the lady teas. All right. So we are gathered here today to get through this thing called Prince Vault Tracks 3. We've already done the first 2. I'm super excited about this final vault disc. And at the end of this disc, at the end of our conversation, and I'm saying this now so you can kind of start thinking about that, is I want my friends to think about which vault is your favorite vault out of Vault 1, Vault 2, Vault 3. And then we're gonna end by talking about what are our favorite tracks from all 3, like your top 3 tracks. So, we are going to get started with the first song, Emotional Pump, which, that bass, that's all I got to say. That bass, oh my goodness. Who wants to start talking about Emotional Pump? C. Liegh.
We can start on a high note, right, C. Lee?
Two things. I like the song.
Yeah.
I like the song, but I have no idea what Prince heard in that song to make him would want to sing that damn song. Now, I tried to listen to the lyrics. I tried to listen to the music. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I think it would have been a great song for just about any. Jill Jones, Vanity, Sheila E. Right? Think about all of the women who could have sung that. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around, and I want you guys to tell me what you think he heard, because the lyrics are nothing that Joni Mitchell would have said. And I don't remember just going through my favorite Joni Mitchell song. My father actually turned me on to my favorite Joni Mitchell song, which is A Woman of Heart and Mind. What is it? I'm a Woman of Heart and Mind. It was actually redone by anyway, the sister who's on Saturday Night Live, her mother, famous singer. Anyway, but
you're talking about Maya Rudolph's mom, Minnie Riperton?
Minnie Riperton redid it, remade it. But so that's the only thing about Emotional Pump for me is I love it. I love the bass. I love the lyrics. I love the whole thing. I just think that there was so many other women who could have been given that, because just lyrically it didn't fit her.
Yeah. I don't like Emotional Pump. Let me just say that. So let me get back. Joni Mitchell. So everything we know about Joni Mitchell, that classic Joni Mitchell is the 70s. Okay. She moves into the 80s. She begins to experiment with using more synths, less guitar in her music. With 2 albums that actually kind of was like a herald of her, return. 1982, Wild Things Run Fast, 1982, Doggy Dog, 1985. So on paper, that's where I was. So on paper, a song like Emotional Pump would certainly work. But I think, well, first, the lyrics really turned her off. And it kind of, I get why, because, I don't want you just sexually, but kind of like how a mother wants a child. It's just kind of like very, very different from what Joni herself would say or, sing about. But I think the theme of the lyrics fit Joni's persona. And that, that you're my emotional pump, you're what gets me going. There's a dependency factor, to our relationship. But I don't know, man. I just think that the song might have been a little too funky for Joni as well. And I don't think that it necessarily fit with the other material that was going to be compiled for whatever project Prince was submitting it for. We could assume that it was for Chalkmark and a Rainstorm that came out in 1988. And Prince fans know that Wendy and Lisa did backup vocals on the lead single, My Secret Place, which was a duet between Joni and Peter Gabriel. Although Peter Gabriel wasn't so much of she sings a verse, he sings a verse, but he's featured on it, it was just kind of a miss for me. It's good to have on the set, I believe. But I do feel that this is one of those songs that kind of colors outside the lines, because it certainly was recorded within the midst of material that eventually became the album Sign of the Times. But there's no, real correlation between this song Emotional Pump, and the album that resulted in The Flood, from, like D'Angelo likes to call it, from 1986. It's no for me.
Let's see. Who wants to talk about Emotional Pump next? All right, Nicolay.
Well, I will say I have this sort of theory about, and I don't know, it doesn't always hold up, but I have a theory about the the music that he did with people where he didn't have the dominant role in the relationship. I think those rarely panned out. And, Arthur mentioned Bonnie Raitt. You know, definitely this is an example. I think even the work with Clinton and some of the other stuff, it just was really interesting. Maybe even the "Can I Play with You" is an example of, I think, once Prince really truly looked up to somebody for whatever reason. I don't know if it ever kind of truly worked out. And "Emotional Pump" is something that you could really hear maybe Sheena Easton sing, you know, and why
No.
you
No,
know.
I agree with that.
I mean, that could really that would make a lot of sense to me. So it's an interesting, everything that he had in the vault, or that he was working with at the time. It's interesting he chose this for Joni. There would have been a lot of material I think would have been much better. But yeah, that's sort of my theory, that like when, you know, when the dominance was sort of elsewhere, I think maybe whether it's that I don't want to say that he, you know, froze or anything, but it just, I don't think that was where his forte was.
Anybody else for Emotional Pump? Okay, I'm going to speak up for Emotional Pump. I can't. Okay, Ricky.
Oh, I was just gonna say I like the song, but I like it in the vein of, I mean, the way I like, I mean, can I play with, I mean, can I play with you? It's, so, you know, one of those tunes where I think you hear a lot about, and then when you hear it, you kind of see why it didn't work, but it's still a good tune. It's just, you kind of see why it didn't work. And then, you know, I mean, you're right. I think the bass line is great. And then I do agree with Arthur and like Nicolay that I think when Prince had to really wear his, like, the producer hat, I know for people who weren't his hand-picked individuals, it was kind of a bit of a struggle to kind of get them something that fit them and not him. Because when you hear this, you hear him over all of this, and then pretty much even with the stuff that he did for the other female artists that he handpicked, like you know, you can hear him. And so it's kind of hard to take him out of this song and hear her. So that's just my take on it.
Well, I mean, I personally like Emotional Pump, and I also like that it actually starts off disc Fault Tracks 3. I think is a great opening track, and obviously, as I mentioned before, the bass is fantastic. You know, we were getting the thumping, the slapping, very Larry Graham. Just for the bass alone, I think this is a great track. It's also very, very whimsical, which I normally like whimsical Prince, except for, I think I mentioned before with Big Tall Wall version 1, sometimes whimsical can become cheesy, but this is this, in my opinion, is an instance where it's not. It's like beautiful whimsy. And the one part I love is when he sings "Not Just Sexually," you know, when he goes up, like "Not Just Sexually." I think that's like really fantastic. And the only thing I don't really like about it is like when Prince kind of does a rap. It's like, I really hate that part. And then there's like some additional keyboard stabs towards the end of the song. But I think the basic groove is really pretty incredible. Ricky, did you want to say something else?
Just that I think if we had heard that this song was for someone else, maybe like, you know, Vanity or Apollonia Sheila, or like Nicolay said, like Sheena Easton, someone that he had worked with, or like even Jill, then we'd have probably a different opinion of it, or probably a better appreciation for it. But because it was for Joni Mitchell, instantly, if you're familiar with her music, you think of Joni Mitchell, and then you kind of try to make the correlation, and then it doesn't kind of equal. But yeah, I mean, like, I agree with what you said too. Like, everything about the track is great, you know, and you know, had this been on like The Glamorous Life, or, you know, like Apollonia 6 or Vanity 6 or something, we'd be like, oh, that was a dope tune, you know, just kind of, you know, something different. But I'm sorry, I just read Harold's comment. Now you can go.
Dee, we can't hear you.
This is an interesting comment from Blade Brown. If there's a version from a younger Prince, say circa 77 to 79 for Joni, it's probably a better fit. Yes. So let's see. So actually, can we take this, like, what is it sounding like now? Because two of us are live. Are we still hearing the echo?
I hope
Check,
not.
check.
Okay.
I don't.
All right, cool.
I think we sound fine now.
All right, cool.
Are
Awesome.
we sure?
Yeah, we good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we're good. I don't know.
We're Gucci.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. All right, so let's move on to the next song, Rebirth of the Flesh.
Yes.
All right, that's an enthusiasm from Arthur, so let's get it started.
Man, I love, this is a gift to finally get this song in the best possible quality, you know, to have it. It's one of those Prince songs that I know last episode, you know, I talked a lot about the, you know, the demarcation between this is what I was doing with the revolution, this is what I'm doing next, you know, and Rebirth of the Flesh, which is the Camille album opener. It's just a really just like both barrels to the chest in terms of the sound, in terms of, you know, just what he was going for in comparison to what we knew from, you know, 1986, you know, and prior. It is kind of the poster child for why I don't really pay attention to Prince's lyrics right off, because you know, he's just basically like saying stuff, you know, follow the new funky cool, and you know, we're here, where are you? Everybody jam to the new, what is it, funky groove or something like that. It's just sort of like you just needed to say some stuff just to keep the song moving, and that's fine with me. I'm here for all of it. But you know, the price of admission for this box set is, some of that is paid with the inclusion of Rebirth of the Flesh, and I'm not sure I'm not sure whom the author was, but D'Angelo and I would participate in the Prince Twitter thread, which, if really go to Twitter, hashtag Prince Twitter thread. We've done 3 albums so far: Purple Rain, 3121, and we just wrapped up the deluxe, the Sign of the Times, but in the vein of the deluxe set. And someone, it might have been UNB, was talking about, might have been Edgar Cruz, but was talking about the album cover and how there was a like a sculpture of a woman's face, you know, surrounded by this odd sort of halo type thing. And that was kind of a visual representation of a rebirth. So the idea that Prince would do a song called Rebirth of the Flesh and have this rebirth theme that kind of underpins what he was doing with Sign of the Times, part of what he was doing with Sign of the Times, really was telling you that, you know, I'm changing. However that change was in his mind, again, I was here for all of it, because even in its you know, tinny, crackly bootleg form, I mean, this is just a really, really great song.
All right, Nicolay.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's one of my personal favorites. I've always, I like the Camille material specifically. I've always had an affinity for it. I think it was sort of, or I don't want to say was, but it's Prince at his, I think, funkiest and at the same time most sort of daring. And it's really nice to have this sort of, you know, I know there's controversy about the end or whether it was, you know, spliced or diced or whatever. I don't really, that stuff doesn't really bother me, whether it's, you know, lossy or whether it's this or that, or I just listen to it, you know, and it's better sounding than my version, so I'm good with it. And it just really, I just think this is kind of like a Prince anthem. It's interesting as it sounds like. Somebody, Camilla was talking about Funkadelic, and I could hear. There's times where you can really hear Funkadelic in Prince's music. you can hear, but it's like the early funkadelic, the late '60s records. I think I Got a Thing in this one. There's another good example of She's Always in My Hair. It's another one of those early ding, 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 ding. So I do sort of like it's that combination, I think, of funk and guitar, for lack of a more sophisticated explanation, that I think he had really perfected at this point. Shockadelica, Rebirth of the Flesh. It was really, really a unique sound, and it's just, I think it's one, again, I don't really care about what version it is or who did what to it before we heard it. I think it's quintessential Prince. I think it's definitely quintessential late '86 Prince. So it's it really, I love that it's included here. It's right in its right place.
Could I say one quick thing just to add on to what Nicolay was saying? Because what also worked with Rebirth of the Flesh were the horn arrangements and the background vocals. And this is an example of what worked for me, where it didn't work for me in Witness and Dorothy Parker, but especially Witness, because the background vocals on Rebirth of the Flesh were still shouting. Witness, it takes away from the song in my view. But here it all fits. It's just, it's like everything is in its right place for this.
Yeah, he clearly must have been mad when he did this one, or he had read those press clippings about him losing his funk, because he tried to make this one extra loaded with funk, with the groove and the horn arrangements and everything. That's the first thing I got about it. I'm kind of like everybody else. I'm just so glad to have finally a clear version, but I think when I instantly heard it, I just remember reading those press clippings that he had kind of, taken offense to people saying that he had lost his funk and all this type stuff. And so I think this was one of those moments where he had kind of had enough and wanted to show people. And so went in, and this is what we got. But, to quote, I think was Rockabosh said, like Shannon Sharp said, like yesterday, it was, I think when Prince went, like magnificent, virtuoso. So thought that was pretty cool.
So I'm not really going to say much more about this, except for people. I mean, everybody who's here should know this, but I think this song is really the last remaining Camille song that had never been officially released. And so it's really great that you can compile your own version of Camille with high-res tracks at this point. So, and Rebirth of the Flesh is a fantastic track. I mean, any track with Erica Leeds and Atlanta Bliss is a fantastic track, in my opinion. But actually, that's a very good point you made, Arthur, about the shouting, because I also didn't like the shouting on Witness for the Prosecution version 1. It's just too loud. And so it doesn't bother me so much with this one. I don't know if it's the mix. I don't know if it's because it's Prince. I don't know if it's because he has a lower register, in terms of what he's shouting versus Wendy and Lisa on Witness. But yeah, I'm with you. And I don't want to bash Wendy and Lisa, because I do like their background vocals sometimes. I actually prefer Lisa. I've always preferred Lisa. And I've said this many, many, many times before. I was upset when Wendy came in and it became Wendy and Lisa. For me, it was always Lisa and Wendy. But so that's a whole nother conversation, because I love Lisa's tone behind Prince's. It was like a nice blend. I don't know. I love that combination. I love Prince with Lisa. I love Prince with Sheila. Those two. And then I know the Holy Trinity, which you hate, Sheila, Levi, and Bonnie, is the ultimate for me personally, but we've already had that conversation. So
shout out to Lisa and Jill Jones on background vocals.
Yes.
Together.
So the next song we're going to talk about is Cosmic Day. And I'm going to play this little snippet for you. Every single time I hear this song, this is what I hear. And I wonder if you guys know what it is. So for those of you who don't know, that the second part of this clip was from Sign of the Times, the film, and it's right before I Can Never Take the Place of Your Man, and it's when when Brooke is walking over to Wally. And so when I was playing this, every single time it starts off with and I don't want to listen to the song. I want to put on the Sign of the Times film. It just triggers, and then when it goes into I was like, oh. And so when I first hear, thank you, Kenneth. Someone understands. So Kenneth understands. So for me, Cosmic Day, it took me a while to get used to this song because normally I like the Camille voice, and this is like the Camille voice on speed because it sounds like it's even higher or something crazy. And I really wish that he was singing in his normal voice, that it was not affected in that way. But once the song gets started, in terms of like way past like the verses and everything, it's a really fantastic song. But I'm always put off by the beginning because I don't want to hear it because I'd rather watch Silent Times film. So I really wish just those little drum hits in the beginning weren't there, and I might enter this song a little differently. So it's really crazy how Prince sometimes repeats himself, and I just thought it was interesting that the tempo of Sheila's, like kick drum is the exact same tempo. I mean, I didn't change any. It's the exact same tempo as leaning into Cosmic Day, but that's just me. And then also Blade says the melody always reminded me of Reading Rainbow. And Celie agrees. So who wants to talk about Cosmic Day? Celie.
Celie first.
All right, am I good? Am I not echoing?
You're good. You're good.
All right. So, for me as a poet and a short story writer, I always begin here. So, but to give the lyrics of Cosmic Day context, it's important to know that the song was recorded after Camille and before Crystal Ball, because the Camille persona is the apex of androgyny. So as such, I don't think it's happenstance that this song has these type of metaphysical lyrics that a song in a falsetto that evokes, say, somebody like the Bangles, which is a different type of femininity that he would evoke or engage with, say, Vanity, because for Prince, women are not one-dimensional in how they define their gender. So he could explore more aspects of himself through donning various aspects of women who he around, the women with whom he surrounded himself. So Prince creates this kind of linear spectrum with women, like Vanity on one end, Bangles and Wendy and Lisa at the other end, Mavis Staple, Patti LaBelle, Sheila E., Jill Jones, Nolan Gay, and others through this spectrum, allowing Prince to examine and experiment with his own personality by being connected with these various women, right? And so that's the Camille that I'm hearing on Cosmic Day, right? Prince, on several occasions, right, he articulated that he was equally masculine as feminine, right? Whether it was the 1996 interview with Oprah Winfrey when he said he went through therapy and found that he had a woman living inside of him. Well, of course, it's the line from the song Arrogance, and what he says, right, quote, what makes a man want to rule the world? Make a man enough to say 50-50 girl, end quote. And of course, we all know that I would die for you, right? And what he says, quote, I'm not a woman, I'm not a man, I'm something you could never understand, end quote. Prince was always interested in what it means to understand oneself as either an amalgamation of an entire or complete human experience, or what it means to transcend our physical encasing and live what he sees as a fully experienced spiritual being. So that's what at its core Cosmic Day is speaking, right? Being in the tradition of Uptown and Playing the Sunshine and Paisley Park and Dance Electric and Future Soul Song and Laveau. Prince always wanted to escape, being anything that was a limitation to the human spirit. So Cosmic Day for me is that metaphysical or psychedelic trip, right? I love when he says in the song, quote, this is a cosmic dream. I look outside my window. I see blue whipped cream. There goes a merman swimming up the sky. How did he get there? End quote. And while this lyric may sound fantastical and otherworldly, I think that it's important to understand that much like 1999 or Paisley Park or even Around the World in a Day, Prince is not interested in painting emotional escapism. He's not interested in painting pie in the sky theology. With songs like Emotional Day, Prince is providing a vision where he really thinks humanity has a power to go somewhere where they're not, right? So if you begin in For You and go all the way from For You to Hit and Run Phase 2, a primary theme in Prince's lyrics remain that humanity has the power to be more than our physical limitations, right? When I'm listening to this song, I hear the story of the Tower of Babel, Tower of Babel in the Bible. I'm not going through the whole thing, but there's a line in the Tower of Babel story where God says, look, man has unified. And if man is unified, there's nothing that can stop man. And that was Prince's essential lyric, right? That if we can overcome our presidential bullshit and unite, we can accomplish anything. And that's Prince's message in Cosmic Day. And it was his message from day one to the end of his life. That's why so many of us love him, because he inspired so many of us to strive to be the best versions of ourselves and never allow anyone to keep us from achieving our potential. So I'll end with a final quote from the song, which is, quote, I could be in a park or flying in the deep blue sea. I wish I could hold my hand. I wish you could hold my hand, then everything it could be. There's nothing strange. We're not deranged. We only want every day to be a cosmic day, end quote. In short, Prince is saying in this song that what he said for the entirety of his artistic career, that humanity has the ability to create a wonderful world if we're willing to do the difficult work of overcoming our ignorance, our fears, and our greed. If we do this, then every day can be both a cosmic day and a yellow day. And oh, by the way, I love the guitar work in this song. I'll shut up now.
Well, it's been great joining you all. I think we're done.
Yes, we're done. We're done. Anybody else wants to talk about Cosmic Day?
I do. Oh no, Nick, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Arthur.
It's just quick,
I'll go
but you know,
after you.
The image of Cat on the back of the 12-inch for Sign of the Times. It's like that's the individual I hear or I see singing Cosmic Day. It's like that's the persona of it. And one thing that I appreciate so much about Prince overall, but particularly in this period, is how his visual representation is as much a part of the experience as the music itself. And if you don't have the both, then you really don't get the full picture of it. I think that he was, and it's going to sound cliche, but it's true. I mean, I think between, you know, Prince and Bowie, I don't think they have a like peer short of, you know, maybe Madonna in the popular music space.
Oh, you were fine. Okay, popular music.
Well, no, because,
Okay.
I mean, no. I mean, every time Madonna put out an album, that's what she was on.
Yes.
Her album was blue, short hair, capris, that's what she was on. She put out, you know, Like a Prayer, jeans, natural hair color, that's what she was on. And then flip it the next year for, you know, Dick Tracy and Platinum Blonde. That's what she was always on, you know. And Prince did this, you know, Prince did that same thing. He just took it to another level where what you saw in the picture, that's actually what he was walking down the street with going to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that was what he wore in terms of it not being, you know, not being a costume.
Okay, Nicolay.
I really love Cosmic Day. I've always loved it, even when it was a snippet and they looped it to fool us, and we, you know, it's always been one of those tracks that you would love to hear in full form. When I was preparing for this yesterday, I listened to everything and I was like, this is really the song that in my sort of fantasy universe like sparked the Smashing Pumpkins, like sort of that kind of style of singing compared with the pop layers, and then there's the almost metal guitar sound. It's just like, it's really kind of Prince doing, I think maybe proto grunge. I don't know if you could call it that, maybe not, but it's really an interesting song. And I heard, like, all of a sudden I was like, yeah, this is kind of the almost like the Smashing Pumpkins of like Siamese Dream, and even before that, Gish and stuff. It's I know why it never came out. I happen to really love it. I happen to even love the sort of more cheesy aspects of it. I really always loved that Camille style voice editing, manipulation, you know, the pitch shifting, and he really kind of takes it to the top here. It reminds me of stuff like Good Love and everything. So I'm a huge fan of that sound, and I was very happy to hear it in its full. And I mean, the development of the song is insane. Like, we hadn't really heard, all we knew was kind of the first part. The development of it is absolutely insane. The fusion kind of, just the way it's a remarkable track.
I actually like the Camille voice, and I love Good Love, but it's something about Cosmic Day. I don't think it's exactly the pitch, whatever pitch is on. It seems like it's a little faster, a little higher. I don't know what it is about it, but
it's a Cosmic Day.
I mean, I don't even think it's the Camille voice per se. I think it's a completely different voice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, like if you want to say that, I'll take that too. Like, it doesn't really sound like the Camille voices, because I think they also change that I've heard in previous tracks. So it sort of really throws me off. That's me personally.
I'd love to get Prince for 5 minutes and just ask him about this and have him just say, "Yeah, I just told Susan just pitch it up a little bit more, and it's fine."
Yeah. But I mean, I will say that the guitar work on the song is incredible. And also I like that it really is an epic song, just sort of the changes it goes through towards the end. I just really hate the vocals, are really, really, yeah. Because Courthouse says the guitar leans too much towards the 80s rock fusion and the voice is chipmunk. Exactly.
I love it.
I just wonder why this wasn't used as a B-side to Hot Thing. I mean, what album would he possibly put this on? You know what I'm saying?
It had to be a B-side. Yeah. And it should have been a B-side to Hot Thing, because I could have done without those mixes. But we ain't going to talk about that. All right. So
I appreciate that. I think the 3121 made a slight correction about what I said about what he said to Oprah. So I appreciate that. I think my ultimate point was, however, if you watch the interview, when he says there's another person living inside me and we don't know the sex of it, I think that if you look linear with everything Prince has said about gender, I think that that is a part of his linear narrative about the spirituality of him overcoming male-female limitations, which have nothing to do with sexuality. It has nothing to do with being heterosexual or homosexual or anything in that spectrum. I think that the way that he was saying it in a way that it's more of an exploration of who I am spiritually and metaphysically, about having another person living in me and being fine about not knowing the gender. And I just thought that it was the fact that he was very matter of fact and very comfortable by saying, hey, I'm, what we know, I'm a heterosexual man, I identify as a heterosexual man, and there's another person living inside me, and I don't know the gender. Well, let's be clear. Most heterosexual men that we know would never be comfortable making that statement. And so I think that just by understanding that Prince was always playing with gender as a way to better understand ourselves, puts that statement in that narrative context of Prince trying to move the people who's listening to his music to a higher, more metaphysical point in their lives. And I think that's the point I was ultimately trying to make with that statement.
One more thing I want to say before we move off Cosmic Day that I think was blasphemous. So there is a version of this song with Claire Fisher. And if you have two songs, one without, one with, and one without, especially for a super deluxe box set, I would think that you would either give us both, or you would give us the one with Claire Fisher. I don't know. That's me. I would love to hear that version. And another thing, me too, El Dabara. So wonders if there's an alternative vocal version. And then another thing that Kenneth brought up was crazy thought, could this have been written for the Bengals? I don't know. Ricky says possibly. Okay.
I mean, it sounds like one of those mid to late, let me see, 86, 87 pop MTV pop group tunes that you might hear that was kind of like one and done or kind of hot, like for the moment. And I know we know that he was a fan of music, and he always, made little references, like when he told like St. Paul and them, look, let's get some of this Duran money. So I'm sure he probably was paying attention to what was in like rotation, and so this kind of came out of it. I never really, it's just a, cute sounding little tune. Say, something that you can kind of like whistle to or kind of just, like shake your head to. But it does sound like something that was, kind of inspired from some, like some MTV watching maybe at that time. Something like that. But that's just,
so Eldebaro
my
also
opinion.
brings up, is it the echo we don't like?
We love the echo. Okay, we love it. We love everything about it. Like, what's, guys, come on.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah. Like one thing about, I mean, I can't say for all of these tunes. I know for a lot of us, because we've heard them for so many years. I think the main thing is that we probably got clear versions. And then I think the other thing, well, I know for me, I don't think I've ever tried to imagine them being on an album as much as I have just enjoyed just hearing the song itself. And so I'm just happy for that. So.
All right. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next song, which my grandmother would probably not like, Walking in Glory. The reason why my grandmother wouldn't like this song is she was a very traditional Baptist woman. And then when she found out that the music was also used for two niggas, she would have had it. So Walking in Glory is an interesting song. So I kind of talked about pseudo gospel last week. And this is another, it starts off being a pseudo gospel song. And then once you realize it's also two niggas, I died laughing. But the unfortunate thing is that I hear two niggas like throughout the song, and like when it makes certain changes, I'm expecting it to go, particularly the bass solo, and two niggas, and I go like, where is it? Like, I'm searching for it, and I hear it in my head. So I'm gonna have to spend some more time with Walking in Glory, only because the imprint of two niggas is so strong that is really hard to let go with this Walking in Glory. So I'm going to hand it off to someone else who wants to talk about it. Ricky.
Well, first, I agree with you. I always find it interesting, or I found it interesting that with this song, I know we know Prince was a spiritual person, but you never get the impression that he was one of those church kids that kind of like played or sung in choirs or something. So I thought it was interesting that he was able to get gospelish, if you will, on this particular tune, having not kind of done some of the music. But then, like you said, like when it goes into two niggas, like you kind of just go into Black Album mode. And it was a surprise. I agree with Audra Reynolds. It was a surprise, kind of hearing him do something in that vein, because just kind of shows his strength as like a musician to kind of tap into that. But I'm kind of like you, D. Like when I hear it, and then I'm hearing it, like transition, I'm in like Black Album mode.
So Randy Ferguson says it's my favorite track of the set. That's pretty awesome. I also want to bring back Camila's, and Ricky just really talked to this. Like, this would have been fantastic on a Love Sexy Black Album Deluxe. But I'm not going to get started on my rant about that. But does anybody else want to talk about? Yes, Liegh.
So let me say this at first. This is the only other song that I have a whole lot to say about. So I'm not going to be on these long things the whole time, but I really have a lot to say about this one. The one thing I'll say about not being worried about hearing two niggas in the song is because if you're from the South, and you're particularly from, say, like the Mississippi Delta, you come from a background where the musicians who played in cafes on Saturday night would literally walk across the street and play in the church on Sunday morning. So hearing two niggas like I knew organ players and drummers in church who still smell like the cigarette and beer from Saturday night. So, And what they would do, and I know we got a couple of musicians with us, and I know there are a lot of musicians in the chat, and they can testify to this. A lot of musicians would embed the gospel they were playing with riffs they had just played Saturday night. So it wouldn't be too it wouldn't be too out of the ordinary to hear, right, them buffering, right, the songs they're playing in church with some of those grooves, because they knew that would get people going. The second thing I want to say is that, right, Walking in Glory for me is a bookend to Cosmic Day, right? Where Cosmic Day is a psychedelic trip, Walking in Glory is gritty gospel, right? They both have the same message, but they demonstrate Prince's musical, vocal, and lyrical range, right? Gospel Day is a song that you can sing at an outside 3-day festival for hippies, whereas Walking in Glory is a song you can sing on Sunday morning for your auntie, your big mom, and them, right? And some of y'all don't know who them is because you're not from the South. But if I say, what, Ricky, DeAndre will say, with mom and them. So that's, that's the Southern colloquialism for the day. But the lyrical range is shown because even though Walking in Glory is on the same subject as Cosmic Day, it is directly equally to God and listeners, where Cosmic Day is directly exclusively to listeners. So in short, Cosmic Day is a sermon that provides what I call a figurative exegesis of the text, whereas Walking in Glory is a praise hymn and a testimonial. And to be clear and fair, right, Walking in Glory could be considered one of those more judgy Prince songs, but in this song, Prince doesn't separate himself from those being judged, right? As the narrator or speaker, he's actually saying, I need to do some more work on myself. I love when he says, quote, and I'm going to walk in glory, pray up through the hill. I'm going to ask him to forgive me. Something tells me he will, end quote. So what should not be missed about this song is that Prince's message is not you bad people are going to hell. His message is that everybody has the opportunity to become that person filled with the love to be the person they want to be, right? He states in the song, quote, my baby was a sinner. She knew the meaning of love. Now she's walking up with that man above. Most people are only going to hear my baby was a sinner and be turned off by the judgy Prince. But what's most important in that lyric is he says, she knew the meaning of love. For Prince to be a sinner is to be someone devoid of love. And to be righteous is to be a giver of love, right? So to walk in glory is to walk in love, is to be righteous to a lover of humanity. And to be saved is to allow yourself to be a vessel through which the love of the universe can flow through you and the others. And if you're doing that, you're walking in glory. That's all I got to say. Sorry.
All right. Nicolay?
I got nothing.
Okay.
I concur.
All right. Okay. So it's okay if we move on to the McInnis. So that's awesome. Camila says I was looking for my fan. All right. So we are going to get on to the next song. Oops.
Wale.
So
You killing me programming yourself.
all right, so I'm going to get started with Wally. And I have Wally's book here.
Oh my God.
Which is
Is it good?
Nicolay, in terms of the books that have been released these past couple of years, not the 2016, 2017 books, but the 2019, 2020 books, this is my favorite book, and I am not lying.
You liked it? Yeah.
I love this book. I actually love this book. This is the best Prince book, in my opinion. He gives a lot of information about Prince, and it's called Wally, Where'd You Get Those Glasses? And unfortunately, I'm going to take a book out of Liegh, except for I'm not going to I can't do what Liegh does, but I am going to read. So you're going to have to bear with me. So this is from this book. It says, I remember when he was preparing to propose to Susanna. I went with him to purchase the ring. He bought it from Jewelers Row, Merchants Row in Philadelphia. Shout out to Philly. And I know exactly where that is. I've walked through there many a day. It was a pear-shaped D flawless ring. When their relationship came to an end, we talked about it. He would share personal things with me that I will take to my grave. Prince valued my opinion and trusted me enough to know that I wouldn't repeat things to others. I heard that he was writing a song. Believe it or not, during sound check, the tune was initially called Billy, Where'd You Get Those Glasses? My brother-in-law was known for his big rimmed glasses. People remembered him in Purple Rain with the big white glasses. Billy Sparks, for those of you who don't know. The song was never slated for an album or ever released. The initial lyrics were heartfelt to my understanding. Dr. Susan Rogers said the way he was singing the song and the raw place from where he was performing it was something that stood out to her most. He told her to erase all of it or he would do it himself. The first version was deleted. Dr. Rogers is the only person who ever heard it. I didn't need to hear the song. I knew of our conversations. I saw a side that many people never got a chance to see. Our relationship was unique. I valued it. I still do. I was with him during a pivotal time in his personal and in his professional life. Now, this is where I want you guys to pay attention because everybody always knows that stuff. I remember he did the song and it came from a conversation that we had about some females over in Paris. It was about some sisters and we met them at an upscale African club, the Cure Samba. They were twins. Prince was a Gemini. If you look back on his career, he identified with twins a lot, and these girls were identical twins. We kept in touch with them for a while, and he was just asking me about them. He was in a relationship with Susanna Melvoin at the time, but he was asking me about those girls. And then he goes into about how Prince was definitely a womanizer. He was a Valentino, blah, 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 blah. But then he continues to talk about these African twins. Now, I moderated an event for the Purple Paisley Brunch September, if I remember my months correctly. And Wally was there, and he sort of verified all of this. So basically, the point I'm trying to make is when Wally talks about this song, he doesn't talk about Susanna really, because that's what happened at the Purple Paisley Brunch. He talked about these two African identical twins. Which never seems to come up with other people, except for Jill Jones, which Camilla, because Jill actually verified that that day. So I'm just curious to know if you guys had heard about these two twins in relation to the song Wally. So that's just sort of keep that there. So when the song kind of fell out of the sky before the Super Deluxe was released, and everybody said this a lot, you know, Susan Rogers really built this song up so much that I was expecting like this masterpiece, actually something like Crystal Ball, like not Crystal Ball isn't really an emotional song as it is just so epic. I mean, it's just like you've never heard anything like it before. It was an extraordinary experience listening to Crystal Ball for the first time. I knew it as expert lover. So when Wally fell out of the sky and I listened to it, I would love to hear the original, but in terms of the second version, I don't hear the emotion. And actually, Wally's story makes a lot of sense in terms of the way Prince sings this song, because I don't hear any pain. I mean, like, I don't hear any pain at all. So this is another song where I really need to listen. I mean, I need to live with it like for some years, because there's so much, I mean, there's just so much baggage with this song that I can't really enter into it as a song because of the very high expectations, like the highest expectations ever, probably on the level of Moonbeam levels, which I absolutely do not like. With Wally, I mean, I can at least tolerate Wally, but that's just me. All right,
I agree.
Wally, Nicolay.
I agree with you completely, D'Angela. I don't hear it. I think it's an example of myth making after the fact. It doesn't have anywhere the emotional depth of like a Condition of the Heart, or if you really line up the narrative and the song, you just don't hear it. It strikes me as a musical tune, really, more than anything. It's a little, campy, honestly. And I think it is not that song. Like, I wasn't there, so I can't really say. And Susan Rogers was, but this is not that song to me. I don't feel like this is the that sort of relationship bookend, Mona Lisa, Sistine Chapel I don't hear it, and I think there's even more evidence coming out now where I think it's clear that the relationship wasn't 100% over at that time, or at least there's rumblings of Susanna in early '87 and stuff. So maybe this is just a track where it's, you know, I'm sure it's sparked by some sort of element, but the story about the twins makes a lot more sense, and the Wally thing, if anything, is more with him evoking Wally. To me, if anything, is sort of the main argument against this being a relationship song like that. I just think that
Mm.
Wally and the boys sort of represent this sort of like bachelor kind of, you
Mhm.
know, rat pack, whatever they
Mhm.
had going on. And so this is it. Here's is the exact opposite. And also to conclude about Wally, like everything he said in that book, keeping secret and stuff, he also is one of the biggest sources of illicit material recently. So I look at that. I don't know. That's a double-sided coin right there. I think that he probably remembers correctly. We have no way of knowing, but this sounds very plausible, much more plausible than I think the
Mm.
Susan Rogers like, and even the way that she sort of like explained like the melodies, sort of the lyric play and stuff. Again, if you listen to it, it's like a Phantom of the Opera song, man. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, this song doesn't stand a chance after the anticipation that was built up about it being the one song that he recorded that he himself destroyed. You know, again, you know, amidst protest. And I agree with Nicolay. It doesn't sound like you know a heartbreak or a reflection song. It really sounds. It's you know it sounds like part two of Movie Star, where at the end of Movie Star, the
Mm,
date falls asleep, and
Mhm.
then he
I love
goes,
that.
hooks up with his friend, and tells him about it. It's like, you know, I was cold and all of that. Let's find somebody else. Um, but that, I think thinking about that myth which I'm sure happened. He recorded the song. You know, it was the most personal song that Susan Rogers ever heard. He deleted it. You know, and that right there, you know, activates the grandness of it, because you know it immediately becomes, you know, the holy grail, in the same way that when we heard about, you know, the Black Album was going to be released, but that he canceled it. You know, now it just becomes the most epic thing, you know, to get. It becomes, the fountain of youth. You know what I mean? But I generally skip it because this just doesn't, it
Yeah,
doesn't stand a
I
chance.
never say I want to listen to Wally. It never happens. Does it happen for Ricky's shaking his
Mm-mm.
head? So that's a no. Nicolay, no. Dealing.
And I think it's so interesting just to hear her say like it's one of his most personal or the most personal song to her that she's ever heard, and she was there when he recorded "If I Was Your Girlfriend."
Mhm.
Like, I don't, is that just a little too much time has passed or what? I don't know what it is, but some of that doesn't really. I mean, again, its taste is objective, and maybe to her it was. We will probably never know, but it doesn't really. I think a lot of these Susan Rogers myths, like they exist because she was an early source of a lot of these, like how the drums speed up in the cross, and it's just
Hmm.
like honestly, I don't. Whether you hear it or not, you can argue about it, but it's not speeding up as much as she's always made it out to be. And there's a couple of those over time where I think because she just got interviewed a lot, I know how these things work out. You add more and more and more to the story over the years, and I
Yeah.
think she really did. I think she never did a disservice per se to the work,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
some
yeah.
of it was definitely, I think, embellished over time. Partly also with a I think a nostalgic sort of looking back feel to it, but I think there's a lot of these stories where you just realize even the Ballad of Dorothy Parker with the console and stuff. I mean, it is all blown up to be these sort of turning points in time. When you listen to it, you would never know that if nobody had told you. I dare
Hmm.
anybody to say, "Oh yeah, that Ballad of Dorothy Parker sounds a little." It doesn't sound out of place, and nobody would have known
Mhm.
had those stories. And I think it's partly also, I mean, I don't know, that I have some question marks involving all of that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with everybody, man. I think like had we not heard the build up, we probably wouldn't even be talking about this song. But I think every Prince song at some point or another has a myth behind it or a story or something. So this is, I mean, I guess no different from say the others, but I agree. I think I think the anticipation of hearing it was just from the myth and the stories about it, and then when you hear it, you're just kind of like, okay, I actually like Elephants and Flowers better than this song.
And that's a lot. Oh my God. All right. I mean, I will say though, I would love to hear the original. I mean, I would love to hear the original. I would love to know if this, just even musically, and like, are the lyrics the same? Are the lyrics different? Is it musically the same? Is it musically different? I would love to know that. Obviously, we'll never know unless there was a cassette dump, which it sounds like it was never a cassette dump, but there's a possibility on one of those. I believe in hope.
Honestly, I don't ever want to hear it. I don't ever want to hear it because what if it's not? You know what I mean? Like, what if it's not as great as I have made it out to be in my head? And it's almost a self-fulfilling property. Yeah, it can only disappoint. It's better off just being the story.
Yeah. I guess the two things for me is I'm in that minority in that 85% of the bootleg studio stuff I hear, my gut reaction is I hear why it never left the vault. So for me, I'm a patterns guy. So I guess I never bought into the Wally hype because my history of having been a bootleg, person getting these boots over, once you get up to 10, 15, 20 years, things have a pattern. So I guess by the time I didn't hear that great vault track that say, wow, like I can't think of the number of songs, bootleg songs that I can say, man, this would have changed my opinion of Prince had it been released. So the myth of the song never impacted me. So I guess that's why I'm not as disappointed as most folks, because I wasn't expecting that much anyway. But it's not a song that I go, oh, it should have been released. So my point is that I'm not as disappointed. But again, it's not something that's in the great pantheon of Prince work. I will say, again, and I'm not, I will only say probably in Susan Rogers' defense, is that having been someone who's lost a whole manuscript, like I had a whole book lost from a virus. And I've had poems and short stories that I've lost to a virus. And so I will at least give her the benefit of the doubt that sometimes when you create something once and you lose it for whatever reason, it's difficult to catch that fire again. It's difficult to catch that initial inspiration. And so I'm going to lean not so much on maybe she was engaging in myth making. I'm going to lean on maybe when Prince decided to redo it, the fire or the inspiration that he had just wasn't there.
I hear you. That's a really good point. So for those of you who don't know, Marilyn has pointed out to us, all I want to say is Georgia. And that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. I love me some Georgia. All right.
Let the lawsuits begin.
All right. We're going to get on to the next song. This is the song for me. I Need a Man. And it's really crazy. Like I would not pull out this Vault Track 3 ever again if it wasn't for I Need a Man. And the reason why I love I Need a Man is that it reminds me of the album The Vault. I don't know if you've heard the songs off the album The Vault, Old Friends for Sale. And I love that album. And for me, this song would fit right on that album. Like She Spoke to Me and things of that nature. The horns in this track are incredible. Like I just love the horns. Dun, 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 dun. And I could listen to this all day, every day, 24/7, and it never gets old. I also love the way Prince is singing this song. You can tell he's really into it because he gives us some ons, like he's really getting into it. And I would be curious to hear Bonnie Raitt's version of this, because supposedly Bonnie Raitt recorded some vocals for this, and I would be curious to I wonder, I would assume that the music would also change, like if Bonnie would have properly recorded this. I wonder if kind of like with the Kenny Rogers song, how like it was kind of re-recorded. I wonder if it would have been re-recorded, if they would have if Bonnie Raitt would have went through with actually releasing it. But I think that this, to me, I don't know. I love this song, and that's very surprising because it sounds a little bit almost like what I call old man Prince. And when I say old man Prince, that means that he's just doing the traditional rhythm and blues. He's not being his experimental, self. But I don't know. I think it's incredible. I would love to hear the version that was done for the Hookers. And for those of you who don't know, the Hookers came pre-Vanity 6. So if we are putting multiple tracks on the Super Deluxe, we can totally take off the Shep Pettibone mix and put the Hookers version of I Need a Man.
The Crown Jewel, D'Angelo, you're going to take off the Crown Jewel this whole set?
And you know what? I think
God, I don't even want to talk about it. Like the ending track, the finale.
We'll get to it.
Okay.
You know what?
Go ahead.
I think Lettucey would do this song justice. I mean, I like the song too, but I think somebody like Lettucey would do this song justice. Like
Betty Wright or Etta James or somebody, like if she was still alive.
I mean, definitely somebody with strong vocal cords. I mean, definitely that. I mean, is not for the weak. Yeah. So the lighter singing female singers, but I mean, like, I agree with you. Like, I think it's a great tune. Like, I think it's just one of those tunes where he kind of channeled his his influence. I mean, I think in terms of songs that he wrote for other people or he had intended to write for other people, I think this is the one where he probably got closer to what the artist may be about, and in terms of taking, say, himself out, sort of, because you can, even though you hear him, you can almost imagine like someone else singing this. And so I think he kind of did his producer songwriter thing a little better than he did with the Miles tune and then the one for Joni. But I agree with you, D'Angelo. I think it's a great tune.
I think that, and I'm a big Bonnie Raitt fan. I think that it would have been changed just a little bit because I don't think this version is bluesy enough for her. I also agree that, if you think about who were the soul singers of that time, everybody that y'all named, right? I would even, see somebody like Vanessa Williams. People forget that Jasmine Guy was trying to do some things back then. I think that she would have had a great kind of voice. But those horns that you hear, D'Angelo, that they are, you love them because they are reminiscent of Diana Ross's Love Hangover. And if you take
I love Hangover.
If you take the chorus of this song and slow it, maybe half tempo, you get Love Hangover. And I think that's what everybody's hearing about that true R&B diva, like moaning, sultry type of singer. I would love to hear Jennifer Hudson even today. Somebody take it and see the connection between that song and Love Hangover, and then give it that really R&B treatment that I think it deserves.
Well, that's the first thing I'm going to do when we end this call. I am going to put on Love Hangover. We'll do it back to back to I Need a Man, because I can play I Need a Man all day, every day, like I said. Nicolay.
I mean, I think the only thing that's worse than this song
Oh my
is,
God.
I don't know that there's any. Well, no, it's hearing Bonnie Raitt struggle through it. I don't know who has heard it here. I've heard it, and it makes you just embarrassed to hear, in my opinion, an artist like Bonnie Raitt reduced to just, again, this is just not a fit. And I mean, when you hear it and you hear Bonnie Raitt singing some of those lyrics and talking about, what is it, good body or body this or that, and you just realize, like, he's asking Bonnie Raitt to sing a hooker song. Like, I mean, I realize years have passed, but it's just not sophisticated enough for her. I think she sounds like it. I think you hear it in her voice. You hear it, because it is the same exact. Or I mean, I don't know if it's the exact same version, but it's the version that, I mean, it's, there's nothing bluesy about it or funky, in my opinion. I think this is just a real dud, man. And I mean,
Oh my God.
it's good to hear. It's good to hear it because it, historical purposes. Other than that, I'm so good if I never hear this again. And I think the only thing that saves it is that it's not the Bonnie Raitt version, because that would have made that disc like worthless.
Can I ask you?
Go ahead.
I want to ask, you guys who know more about recording in studios, and of course we know that she was trying to get out of her Warner Brothers. And I remember Howard Hewitt. I can't remember the song that Prince gave to Howard Hewitt, and he hated that song and didn't want to sing it.
It was called Allegiance.
That's it. And I I love Prince's version of Allegiance, right?
Yeah.
And Howard Hewitt just didn't want to sing it. And I guess my question is, to hear you talk about that is, and maybe this will get us off on a tangent, and it should be maybe another discussion about people singing, songs. It pains me to hear you say that Bonnie Raitt had to endure that, and that a record company could make her sing or do something that was so not who she was, if you can see the point I'm getting at. And so I just wonder how much of that was I'm gonna try to do this, and how much was that the record company saying, no, you're gonna record this. And do you know, does anybody have any insight on how those things kind of work that way?
It strikes me as organic. I don't know. I think this is probably to like mutual fandom. I don't think this is like a record company sort of match. I think this was same as Joni. I think this was something that he was a big fan of. I know she was a very big fan of Prince. There's an interview from '84, a Bonnie Raitt interview where she shouts him out, and I think this is the Purple Rain. It has to be the Purple Rain phenomenon, but that's, I think, the first time I remember that Bonnie Raitt talks about Prince in an interview. And so I think there was mutual respect. I think it was like same as the thing with Madonna. Let's see what we got. And I think when they had what they had, they knew that they didn't have nothing.
So Nicolay, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with you that this was not a song lyrically for Bonnie Raitt. And I think, Arthur, you've already spoken on this today, and you've spoken on this many times about how Prince doesn't really write for other people.
Right.
He gives them songs.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of these songs for Bonnie Raitt, in my opinion, that are on the Super Deluxe, are not good for Bonnie Raitt. And I was actually a bit perplexed when I first listened to this, like, why is this even on here? I'm talking about all the Bonnie Raitt songs. However, when it comes to I Need a Man, and I haven't heard the Bonnie Raitt version, and I know she did the vocals, but I like this song for Prince. And obviously he would have to change the lyrics, I need a dame or something. But like,
I need a babe.
Yeah, or something. But I'm wondering if you're getting, because you've heard the Bonnie Raitt version, because you have such vitriol for, like, how dare you give this to Bonnie Raitt? And I totally agree. I totally agree. But for me, this song is fire. In fact, I wouldn't put it past myself. Like, if you talk to me in a year from now, I'm probably still gonna be playing "I Need a Man." I'm serious, and it's probably the only song I will be playing from this.
I respect that.
I mean,
I respect that. Yeah.
Like it's just like he gets in the groove. But it's more than just the music. It's just like I can hear that he is in this song. I mean, he is feeling the song. Like I can hear it in his delivery. So I love the song. I think it's fantastic. And again, like I said, the horns are incredible. And this is just like, for me, like a groove that can just last forever, you know? So that's me. And also, I Need a Man. Also, I think of Grace Jones. You know, she has another song, but just like, I don't know. So it's just like multi-level for me. I just love this song. Not for Bonnie Raitt, obviously. Anybody else want to say anything about I Need a Man? I think we're on to the next, Promise to Be True, which was another song for Bonnie Raitt. Celie is ready to rock. And also it was, I want to say it was a Hooker or Vanity Six song. I think it was a Vanity Six song. So Celie, take it away.
Okay. This song has finally unraveled the mystery of why Vanity left Prince. We now know it's the mystery has been unresolved. Vanity left Prince because when that song gets to the 3-minute mark, she knows there's no way in hell her thin voice could hit those notes, and she was out of there. She's like, you ain't gonna embarrass me on record. This little thin-ass sex kitten voice cannot hit those notes. I don't know what the hell you thinking about. You need to go get that song to Jill or to Sheila or somebody. I'm gonna go make this damn record. I'm gonna go make this album, this Kung Fu album. And you ain't gonna embarrass me on record player. So that is all I got to say. That song is that she knew she couldn't hit them notes. And that's why. So the mystery is unraveled. That's why she left Prince.
All right.
That's real.
Who else wants to talk about Promise to Be True? I will say that
I like it. It's good to hear, you know.
Oh, really? So you like this better than I Need a Man?
No, most definitely. I mean, I like Spinach more than I Need a Man.
Wow.
Like that.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's a good song. I mean, I like hearing it, but there's no real replay value for me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, so Ricky has to leave, so we appreciate Ricky's presence while he was with us. But we're gonna hold this down. And when I first heard this track, when I listened to the vault tracks, I was like, "Why is this taking up space?" That was the first thing I said. And with all the Bonnie Raitt songs, except for I Need a Man. So that's my comment about Promise to Be True. So this is a great comment from Blade Brown. All he had to do was bring Jill into the booth after Vanity left. Yes. And
Put that vanilla out.
Okay. We're going to go to the next song, which is just as fantastic as Promise to Be True, is Jealous Girl. Who wants to talk about Jealous Girl?
I mean,
okay, Jealous Girls was another Hooker song. Again, now I would love for these songs to be on this box set if the original was on here as well. So we can compare and contrast, because I'm sure the music for Jealous Girl is very, very different when he tracked this for the Hookers versus this version that we have here.
Yeah.
So I will say that. Like, give me all the versions.
But you know, it completely changes the context of the release. Because like all 4 of these songs are controversy era songs.
Right.
Yes.
That are reworked. And I mean, the first indication that I can think of as far as like how he would rework a controversy era song in whatever the current year he was going to intended to release it would be Tick Tick Bang.
Mm.
And if you take Tick Tick Bang that appears on Graffiti Bridge and compare that to Tick Tick Bang that he recorded in the controversy era, that is, you just want to, you throw the whole Graffiti Bridge album out. It's just that much better. But the overall problem that I have with, these 4 songs has more to do with the story behind them and how these were the songs that he submitted to Bonnie Raitt. And, they're just because it's not like you can put her voice on these songs and make them like putting lipstick on a pig, right? And if you listen to Nick of Time, Bonnie Raitt's Nick of Time that was released in 1987, that any one of these songs, that's what would be included on there. Yeah. You see how they just don't fit. And, I think that Prince was maybe 4 or 5 years too early in the songs that he was writing, in that Bonnie Raitt, I think, would sound good on, I don't know, come on, get it together, Art. Sweet Baby, for example, Sweet Baby that appears on, the Symbol album, or even Blue Light, or Don't Cancel, or I don't know, Cream. I mean, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, like, just thematically, it's a better fit for what Bonnie was able to do and what she would be able to bring to the songs. And I guess that's what bothers me most. Prince didn't give any room for Bonnie to bring anything of her own to the music.
Well, he's not going to produce a Bonnie Raitt record. He's going to produce Bonnie Raitt doing a Prince record.
Right. Yeah, and that's his MO, right? It's
work.
Like, I've got these songs for you. Record your vocal on them.
Right.
And that just doesn't always work.
All right, so we are actually going to take a break from our regularly scheduled program here to talk a little bit about box sets. So, let's see. Hold on one second. I got a message. I don't know if you give me 1 second. It's not coming up. I can't share my screen. It's not allowing me to do so for some reason. I wanted to, but so I have to talk this out. So if you go to Super Deluxe Edition, I think it was .com. I think it was yesterday. The King Crimson, the complete 1969 recordings were released, and it is 26 discs. 26 discs. The complete 1969 recordings. And if you go through the CDs, there's Live at Hyde Park, July 1969, Live at the Marquee, July 1969, Plumpton Festival, August 1969, Live at Chesterfield, September 9th, 1969, Fillmore East, November 69, Fillmore West, December 1969. And then you go on, and you have multiple takes of the same tracks. Like the Court of the Crimson King has take 1 and 2, 3 to 7, 8 to 10. This is a box set to me. And this is actually what I was hoping that the Sign of the Times box set would have been if you've been here before. I wanted the Parting of the Red Sea, where it was about the release of the Sign of the Times album, not what led up to it, like the release of the Sign of the Times record. And then that way you could have, when it came to the Super Deluxe box set, really sort of emphasize all of the Sound of Times rehearsals, the Sound of Times sound checks, the Sound of Times after shows. Don't get me started. And then maybe the Sound of Times live shows, like more than just a U-track. So when I saw this King Crimson box set, I just like blew a gasket. I was like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. So go to superdeluxeedition.com and look at this King Crimson box set. This is what I want for a Sign of Time Super Deluxe box set. And there's still time to give us another Sign of Time Super Deluxe, another version. Because
But D'Angelo, I'm telling you, it's like I said, last week? It's like, this is it. That they, okay, let's just shoot our shot, because we're going to lose this material. Warner Brothers was going to lose this material.
I keep forgetting that. Yes.
So let's get it out. Now, here's another thing too. It could very well be that Warner Brothers or the estate or the committee, however it really worked out, doesn't think that we're the market that would appreciate a true box set as you described, as hella people have released and have supported. That we don't buy like that, that we don't consume like that.
Because they're not catering to the super fan.
Right.
They're catering to the rain people.
I mean, I'd agree with. I mean, they're not catering to the super fan, yeah, but they're not catering to the art of the album. You've got, I mean, a Beatles album, hell, a Miles Davis album. I don't know how many discs the Bitches Brew release was. I don't know how many discs the In a Silent Way box set is. I mean, I have it digitally, and I know it's a whole lot more than the two that appeared on the actual LP. But it could very well be that the belief is that we're not going to support this work, that we don't appreciate the album, that we just need to have all of this music that was, started recording at this date and ended on this date, even though we left out a hell of a lot of songs, in between, and just shoehorn it into this box because this is what they want. They just want all the vault material, no matter how, no matter how we frame it. God, I always end up ranting on your shows. I'm so sorry. But I mean, let's think about it though. It's like, it's not like an artist like Prince can, that he doesn't have the material. Obviously he's got the material to support this, but he's of the marker that you would put out materials like this. I never thought that I would see a Prince box set, much less two.
Really?
Inside of 18 months. Oh no. I never thought. I mean, because of course, he had to pass on before it could happen.
Right.
But I just never thought, because we had all this time to get something together. And I do know, I mean, a lot of it was Prince's fault, but a lot of it was, and he even said, well, I mean, every time I try to get a meeting with Warner Brothers, there's a new guy in the head seat, so I'd have to start all over again. But I mean, what's a Parade box set going to look like? I think it's going to be more centered around the movie Under the Cherry Moon than it necessarily would be for the album. You saw what they did to Purple Rain, and I mean, Purple Rain, that's the nucleus of all of this for them, right? That's that's why there's a Wendy, Lisa, Susanna, who wasn't even in the damn Revolution narrative that undergirds this entire Sign of the Times box set. But the Purple Rain redo was just horrible. I never bought it. And I buy everything. So I like it, so I don't like it.
I bought it.
I bought it because I bought everything. And because I want the estate to continue releasing box sets. But I will say that it sounds like to me, based on things I've read, is that the estate was rushed, to put something out for that Purple Rain. I mean, they had to have been, because it's just is not at the level that it would be. I'm sure when we get to 2024, I'm sure they're going to do something else for Purple Rain. I mean, because they didn't do a proper, rollout, in my opinion, when they released that box set. That's just me. So once somebody said, who was it? I can't remember. Here we go. Sean D67 says sales of the recent Prince box set should send a clear message. And I really hope that they do. I mean, it broke the top, like, what was it, 14 on the top 100? Like the actual, I don't know which box set specifically, like if it was the super deluxe box set or whatever, but it is selling. So, yeah. All right. So we're going to keep it moving after. So we had our commercial break about what box sets should be. We're going to talk about the next Bonnie Raitt tune. There's something I like about being your fool. Oh my God. All right. I don't like when Prince does pseudo reggae.
Oh,
Thank you.
Hated Blue Light.
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that's your heart.
Yeah, but I will say the one song I do love, and so there's always an exception, is Rippa Go to Zippa.
Yeah.
I love that song. So who wants to talk about There's Something I Like About Being Your Fool? Because I don't want to talk about it. Okay, Liegh.
All right, so let me be honest in my hypocrisy. No, I'm just gonna be honest in my hypocrisy. I like this song not because of the song.
Mm-hmm.
I like this song because one of the most beautiful things I have ever heard in my life is from the piano and the microphone when Prince combines If I Was Your Girlfriend and Bob Marley's Waiting in Vain.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most beautiful shit I've ever heard in my life. And maybe I'm putting too much on it because that's one of his final moments. And that's, you know, it is just, you know, and of course we all know the story about when Bob Marley went to meet Prince and was freaked out by his appearance and all that. So when I heard There's Something I Like About Being Your Fool, the pseudo reggae vibe didn't bother me as much because it's, you know, again, I don't dislike Blue Light. So I don't hate Blue Light. And
Do you
so,
love Blue Light?
to be honest, for its time, my wife and I really liked it on that album. We really liked it on the Androgynous Way. Like, it was one of our favorite songs on the album. So it was just one of, it didn't bother me. Now I guess I'll say about Prince doing pseudo reggae the same thing I say about Prince rapping, though it's not the same. The way I deal with Prince rapping is, here's what I say to people. If you were never raised on real macaroni and cheese, you're gonna like Kraft macaroni and cheese. But if you were raised on real macaroni and cheese, there's no way in hell you can really dig Kraft macaroni and cheese. So because I wasn't raised on, I'm not a fan of real hip hop. It just sampling made me not to be able to embrace hip hop. I just couldn't get past the sample. So Prince's rapping doesn't bother me because I'm not a connoisseur of true MC. The same, I guess, with Prince's pseudo, although I was raised around reggae, and so I know real true reggae, but I wouldn't call myself a reggae head. And so since I'm not a reggae head, his pseudo reggae doesn't bother me as much as someone who would call himself a reggae head. So for that, I think the guitar work is pretty good. Mm-hmm. It's I'll tell you what that song reminds me of. It's the song that would play in an 80s movies montage.
Okay. All right. Who else wants to talk about There's Something I Like About Being Your Fool? I have a feeling that nobody else wants to talk about it. Okay. The one thing I will say, and we always have to give a shout out to Prince Vault. Prince Vault says, Prince pulled out the track in 1985 for possible use by Jill Jones, but it's unclear if additional instrumentation or vocals were recorded at this point. I would always love hearing Jill record any Prince song, so I wish she would have done a version of this, but I don't think that she did. But that would be definitely interesting to hear. All right, so the next song we're going to talk about is Big Tall Wall. Let me see if I have my... All right.
Do that again. One more time.
All right, so Big Tall Wall version 2. Now, it took me a while to get into Big Tall Wall version 1, and I kind of like it, but not really. I like it once it gets down in the track and the music starts jamming and all that kind of stuff. And then when I first heard this version, I was like, this is not complete. It sounds like a demo. It's just Prince and some drums, where my keyboard's at. And I kind of dismissed it. But in preparing for today, I've had it on repeat, and I love those vocals. The vocals that he's doing on this version, the harmonizing, it's really some incredible stuff. And then also, like, I'm not good with my vocal separation. I don't know if he's doing like tenor, alto, or baritone, but when he goes in that lower register, it's like incredible. So for me, this song is all about the vocals, and I would actually choose this version over the version on Vault 1, just because these vocals are just incredible.
Yeah, I love those drums too. This version is, I think, the superior version. It's like he's owning the creepiness of the lyrics, you know, and supplied some, you know, creep vocals to go along with it. But it also, in a way, it sounds kind of like, for lack of a better word, you know, experiment. I mean, when you have a recording studio, you know, in your basement or whatever, you know, you don't have to worry about scheduling. You know, when you have an idea, you can, as we see clearly, you know, you can produce it. I don't know if this was, I would have to say that this is a song that he wanted to make work because he recorded it more than once, and that either he couldn't find a place for it, or when he came back around to it, you know, the time had passed, the shelf life had passed on it.
I'm, you know, not to give too much credence to the lyrics, but you know how he did all of the Batman songs in a persona of a character. I would have loved to see this as a B-side under the Jokers, right? Because we know Joker's trying to get Vicky Vale, right? And so I think that if you put these lyrics under the Joker's moniker, it fits really well, right, with what he was doing throughout that entire Batman. So and I'm like you, the vocals are like this. So I like it. I was going back and forth because I'm not. It also reminds me of, and I can never remember the actual name of this song, which is a shame, I know. But I like, because it's from the Batman era, you know, sex, the 80s are over, and, you know, time for monogamy. So Big Tall Wall also reminds me of that. It's a song, is it just sex? Is that?
Yeah.
So
with a really long parenthesis behind it.
There you go, in the long parenthesis. So it reminded me of sex, and that's why I thought it could have been a really good B-side for the Batman stuff.
One thing that comes up for me in the lyrics when he talks about the Stone Cold Circle, I wonder if he built that little circle house on Paisley Park for to keep Yes, he built his own big tall wall. But that's just me. Okay, I don't think Nicolay wants to talk about this song.
Disc 3, man, is a tough one.
Exactly.
We're sliding down the mountain on this one, Nick.
Yeah, and I think that's more of what it is. And there's nothing wrong with, I mean, Big Tall Wall is, it's not one of my favorites, but I like to talk about it in terms of what it is and the historic context or whatever. But like, this 3 is a real dog. And I think that there's a lot that you could see. Again, like, why is there 4 Bonnie Raitt demos? You know, I think to make the connection is one thing, but I think there's, again, just a lack of a certain sort of overarching vision here. And to come back to your sort of Kim Crinson remark, I mean, they clearly went with, like, what is it, 8 discs or something for this one? I mean, it's an expensive package. People have paid a lot of money for it. I think it could have easily been 2-3 more discs, and you would have already been off to the races a lot more. You do miss a lot of different live shows from different times in '87, and these things are these are all great, but these are kind of tier B, I think, stuff that later on, let's dig into that. Like right now, with like a Munich after show, how are you going to make the point that you need to hear, 4 Bonnie Raitt demos? That's going to be just a hard one to defend.
Talk to me, Nicolay. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next song, which I know that we're just so excited to be talking about. A Place in Heaven, Lisa's vocal.
I'm sorry.
No, do your thing.
For
do your thing.
I would only say is that something that D'Angelo said earlier. It does make us remember that Lisa was a quality background singer. I think that sometimes we forget pre-Wendy that Wendy, Wendy replaces Gail Chapman and becomes a consummate keyboard player, background singer. And so I really like hearing her voice on this. I also, and I know there's this debate, is Dream Factor an album, is it not an album? And we can get into that whole thing. But what I will say is that if Dream Factory would have been an album, I would have wanted to have all 3 of these on here for great segues. So the one with Prince's vocal, one with Lisa's vocal, and then the one that's backwards, which, okay, good. I just would have think that having all 3 of those on Dream Factory would have given it a texture or a movement that really would have made us appreciate what it is that he was trying to do with that before he passed his way on. And then finally, I always have to say something about the lyrics. I just like this song only because I love the lyric quote, let's not be lazy. There's no room service. It's up to you and me. This lyric is a precursor to the only love there is the love we make. And again, that's Prince, right? So that, for me, just that lyric in this song is an affirmation that Prince was an artist who wanted to say something that would uplift and make us not just be more positive, but to truly understand the power that we have to make this world a better place. And I don't think that Prince gets enough credit for those types of lyrics, right? He's always going to be the dude who had his ass out on MTV. And I think it's incumbent of these kinds of discussions to say that not only was Prince more than just a dude who had his ass out on MTV, Prince was a dude that your favorite songwriter was moved by his lyrics. And that's all I say. So
I'm glad you point out the lyrics. So that line in particular, there's no room service, it's up to me and you. It always stood out to me personally, because I'm sort of I grew up in the South, and my ideology is about pulling your own stuff up from your own bootstraps. So this line really spoke to me. I mean, part of the problem with this particular song is I have heard it for 30 years. I mean, I've played this song a lot only because I love Lisa's tone, like I said before. I actually prefer A Place in Heaven backwards. If there's going to be only one on, and I know some people were like, why put a backward song on here? I don't think any of them should be on here. That's the starting point for me. I don't think any of them should be on here. But if one had to be on here, I would have preferred the backwards one because I just think it's more interesting. And it's also interesting when you play the backwards one, forward or in reverse or whatever. It actually is a little different from the other 2 versions. And I think out of the 2 versions that do have vocals, when you play the backwards one forward, I actually prefer that versus the other 2. That's me personally. So is there anything else we'd like to say about A Place in Heaven?
Well, I want to be clear. I agree with everybody. I don't think it needs to be on here. I want folks to know I don't think it needs to be on here. I was just talking in retrospect to, again, another opportunity that this state missed, right? If you're looking at Dream Factor and you're looking at what he's doing with those block of songs, I was commenting on how it would have fit and made that collection of songs, right? Something that I think people wanted to hear, but I agree with everybody else. It shouldn't be on.
All right. So we're going to talk about another version of Wonderful Day, the 12-inch mix. I'll kick this off. So I would have much preferred to have had an instrumental of the song because I know it so well in the film Under the Cherry Moon. And I guess there's still an opportunity to put an instrumental on a Parade box set if and they got to release a Parade box set. I just got to think it happens. So I'm a little torn between this 12-inch mix and the other version that's on the Super Deluxe. I prefer Prince singing the verses versus Wendy and Lisa singing the verses. But I do like the background vocals that Wendy and Lisa provide in the track. And obviously, I like the 12-inch mix because it's longer and it's also more aligned with what's in Under the Cherry Moon. So kind of similarly, when I listen to Walking in Glory, I'm not listening to Walking in Glory. I'm listening to Two Niggas. like while I'm listening, I'm just thinking of Two Niggas. And it's the same thing with this song, particularly the 12-inch mix. I'm not really present. I'm thinking about Butterscotch Chocolate. I'm just in the film. So I would be curious to hear how you guys feel about the two versions in this Super Deluxe. And again, I don't think there should have been two versions, only because we don't have everything. Now, and again, one of the things I tell my students, you either be consistently consistent or consistently inconsistent. So like if you're going to, have multiple versions of songs, then we should have all the versions. That's me personally. And then why did certain songs have multiple versions, like A Place in Heaven, or in this particular case, Wonderful Day, while other songs didn't have multiple versions that could have had multiple versions, which would have been more interesting. The whole Bonnie Raitt suite with the Hookers / Fan 86 versions would have been incredible. In my opinion, that's the only reason why you would put the Bonnie Raitt versions on here for me, because otherwise I don't think they fit. Because this is a Sign of Time Super Deluxe box set. This is not a Bonnie Raitt or Prince as producer. And that's the reason why I get so pissed off, and I'm going to stop saying this. Going back to the 1999 Deluxe box set, The Time and Vanity 6 is Prince. So yes, I understand why you would, why not include The Time and Vanity 6? Why not include Madhouse on the Sign of Times box set? Because it is Prince. But we'd rather have some songs for Bonnie Raitt on this box set instead of Prince himself. Okay. All right. Who wants to talk about A Wonderful Day?
I do love, just in case people wonder, I do like things, and this is one that I really, really like. It doesn't belong here, we can be short about that. This is pre all of what this is. That being said, this was a surprise, a full-blown 12-inch version for a song that never came out. I think it shows you sort of Prince's just wide and just vast sort of way of working, and as such, I really love hearing it. I think it's it's a central song to me of the 85, 86 time because of what you said, D'Angela, because of Under the Cherry Moon. And I love hearing both of these, but they should have been somewhere else. And I think the more and more I'm sort of letting Arthur's point, kind of marinate here of this being sort of their big one, sort of massive shot, and what what will be left for Parade is a very good question when you hear stuff like this on this box set, and it does make you realize, maybe they did sort of try to push the entirety of 25 clowns in this clown car, and it's tough, man, because it makes you kind of a little bit concerned about what's going to happen. But the song itself, I think, is just to me, is just a great representation of, I think, the revolution, the peak of the revolution era. And I love Under the Cherry Moon, so this for me is like right in the heartstrings. But I could have waited another year and given it its proper place.
I hear you. Arthur, do you want to say?
Yeah. I mean, everything that Nick said, I like Wonderful Day in the same way that I like, like Teacher, and All My Dreams, and just it's a great bookend for this Prince Wendy Lisa box set that we've got. It is. It's a good bookend for it. Somebody in the chat earlier had talked about the absence of Last Heart, and that reminded me of a point that Michael Dean of the Prince podcast brought up last week, to say that, well, Prince gave us a box set in 1998's Crystal Ball, and I agree that he did, within the context of it being unreleased material. But going back to your point, D'Angela, about what a box set is, what it's designed to be, I think it's okay for you to include material that was previously released, and that's what the whole box set is, right? It's to remaster and re-release material that we're all familiar with, but we're examining in a new way, and we're presenting it in its proper focal point some years past, as we just reflecting on what that time meant and what this material meant. And of all the missed opportunities, and I'm just gonna kind of step on this, but to put a 7-minute remix of Strange Relationship and eat up all of this time, there's no so there's a song called Good Love that Prince recorded around this time, and there was a version that was released on the 1998 Vault set. That version is actually different than the version that was released in 1988 on the soundtrack for the film Bright Lights, Big City. That's a version that we haven't heard in 30 years. It's a little different than what we've already put out. This would be a great slot. We put it in here. We still have, 2.5 minutes, to spare. Let's kick off that Crystal Ball 7-inch edit that nobody really asked for, and, think this through a little bit. I just believe that with all of what we have in this deluxe set, the presentation of it, the book, and I know that this isn't the forum to talk about that, so I'm not getting into that.
You can,
but just the prop
here if you want.
It's just what I really appreciate, the proper presentation of this material, and actually have it be incrementally better than the high quality presentation that was given to the 1999 deluxe set. I mean, I love it. And I hate to criticize it as if it's all trash, because it absolutely isn't. But I just believe that just give me the motive. Just give me the motive up front, and say that this is Sign of the Times plus, a whole bunch of vault tracks that a lot of you have been wanting in really good quality, and some other stuff that we just happen to find. As opposed to just creating this false narrative that, it was just this revolution album that got reworked in a few different ways. So yeah, it's kind of all I got on it. But this Vault 3, it just really, we're sliding down the mountain. We can't stop the momentum. And I think that ultimately it's a disc full of kind of leftovers. That
it's filler. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, filler. That we don't have any other place to put it, and we're not going to do another one of these like this, moving forward. I just don't believe that that's going to happen. I believe that what we want to be a parade box is going to be, the 35th anniversary of Under the Cherry Moon. which is very different. You know what I'm saying? If you could forget Love Sexy.
Oh,
You just struck a nerve.
Okay.
I'm not even going to voice. I've been ranting about Love Sexy. That's all I'm gonna say to certain people because I think it's important.
I will.
I mean, I'm glad you have their ear. Oh, go ahead, Celia. I don't mean to dominate.
No, I'm just gonna say I don't. My top point is that I agree with all three of you, and I'm just going to reiterate something I said last weekend, which is while we are thankful to have this box set, it also shows the importance of each one of us to make history right in however way we can make history right. Whether you're writing articles, whether you're on panels, whether you're doing it regionally. Don't think that if you're discussing Prince and engaged in Prince scholarship regionally, it's any less important than people who are doing it nationally or internationally, because the only way that you can offset the negative, right? Again, we all are happy for the box set, but the only way you can offset the negative of what the estate has done is by make sure that you get the information out there. And actually, I just got some papers from my students Friday. At the end of the semester, I have a list of 50 songs, and none of those songs include Purple Rain songs. My students are not allowed to write on Purple Rain songs. And when I tell you that they had to choose 3 songs and to write paragraphs about the central issue and meaning of these songs, when I tell you the great paragraphs and papers that I got from my students who are 18, 19, 20 years old, who the only thing they know about Prince, and each one of them came from that collection of songs saying, Mr. McInnis, I did not know that Prince was this kind of artist. All I ever knew about him was Purple Rain. So that's why these type of forums are important. That's why it's important that we can say we love, thank you, estate, but here's where you got it wrong. And I think it's really important, and I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds, but I think it's really important about the fact that can you do another Sign of the Times box set? Can you still get the Parade box set? One of the things that bothers me is that we'll write 20 books about Abraham Lincoln, or we'll write 20 books about George Washington. We'll write 20 books about a historical white figure, but we'll only write 1 book about a Black historical figure, and we think we've said enough about that figure. And so I think that it is incumbent that while we have this Sign of the Times box set, it's incumbent that we can say Prince is the type of artist that you can do 2 or 3 different Sign of the Times box sets. Prince is the type of artist where you could do 2 or 3 Parade box sets. And we cannot allow Prince to do with Prince what they just do with historic Black figures, give you one thing and that's it. If you, damn it, can do 20 books about Abraham Lincoln, damn it, it should be 20 books about Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, and King. If you're going to do 20 damn box sets about whomever, then there should be 20 damn box sets about at least a good 10, 12 of the albums that Prince did. So I agree with all of y'all. I just want to keep putting it out there. If you're local, if you're regional, if you are international, wherever you are, like I wrote my book, I want to be really clear. I wrote my book in 1996. And if you had to be living during that time, I know a lot of people going to disagree with me, but this is how I was effing feeling. In 1996, I felt like the industry and what was hip and what was happening was trying to push Prince to the side. And I was like, no, hell no. I wrote my book in 1996 because I wanted to make sure a conversation was out there in 96 when the industry was trying to push him to the side to say, this dude needs to be discussed. So for me to see all of the books and articles and things happening, that's what I wanted to see. But you can best damn believe in 1996, no matter how many people say now, no matter how much my book still sells now, there were very few people saying, yeah, man, you should write your book. Yeah, man, you should do that. That book actually started as my thesis. And there were a lot of people, even on my thesis committees, why I couldn't even get it damn done. So I do, and I'll end on this. And I want you the focus to be on the scholarship, not on me. I was told not to even write my damn book in 1996. My thesis committee wouldn't even certify so I could do it. And then 10 years later, a university contacted me and said, on your book alone, we'll give you a PhD. You don't even have to do any other classes. We'll give you a PhD just on your book alone. And the only reason I didn't do it is because, you know, there's always a side hustle. They wanted me to turn over the rights to my book to them. And that was the only way they would have done it, right? Being fabulous. And look here, I'm from Mississippi Delta player. I know that preachers and pimps get their suits from the same store. So I saw they coming a long way coming. So my point, though, is keep writing, keep talking, support D'Angela. Support what she is, just like we support the estate. Send these things to people. Send these links to people. Let people know these discussions are happening, because it's very clear the narrative that the estate is painting. We have to be the counter voice so that we can, it's not even about disrupting the narrative. It's just about getting the narrative right. I'll shut up now.
All right. I want to talk about something Kim wrote. And Kim says, I think we're too early in getting all the box set requirements met. In 10 years, we can reassess and rant. And actually, I totally understand that comment. And again, one of the words I try to live by is hope. So that's the reason why I know that Warner Brothers is losing the rights to Sign the Times. And I still think that there's an opportunity for Sign the Times box set to be done right. And what I mean by that is with the King Crimson treatment, with all the live stuff, that would be a Sign the Times box set for me. As Celie said, and I think it bears repeating, I want to say, and I've said this many times, but I want to keep saying it many, many times. Thank you, estate. Thank you, estate. Thank you, estate. Yes, I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate what you've given us. Yes, this is an amazing box set. I really, 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 really appreciate it. For me, though, it's just not a Sign of the Times box set. It could be a Sign of the Times box set, but I just want to say, and yes, I bought it. Yes, I bought multiple copies. I think the quality of the packaging, which we'll talk about in a couple of weeks, and I've said this already during the original event. Yes, it's amazing. I just think that more thought could have been taken, particularly with the vault tracks. And I'm also sort of, I wonder why the U-Track show, but we'll talk about that next week when we talk about Sign the Times Live. And next week, we're going to talk about, obviously, the March 1st Avenue show, the introduction to the new band. We're going to talk about the U-Track show. We're going to talk about the New Year's Eve show. We're going to talk about the Sign the Times film. And we're going to talk about some other Sign the Times live shows. So I'm really looking forward to that. And Harold Pride is going to be joining us, my brother in. And then also Camila is going to be joining us. Arthur, unfortunately, will not be joining us again for the remainder of the series, but we have so enjoyed having him with us for the three. Really, 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 really appreciate it.
Good stuff, man.
Yes, but Nicolay and Celie and hopefully Ricky will be back with us next week. So we're not going to end just yet. I want to properly we've already kind of been interspersing our thoughts, but I kind of want us to conclude our vault conversation and talk about which vault is your preference, and then just talk about any key tracks that really stand out to you. So Arthur, since you're leaving us, you're going to have and also your A, you always come first. You can start.
Oh, thank you. If I could say one thing, and I won't take too long, but an interesting thing about remasters and revisitation, so the point that Kim had brought up about, looking back at this. So Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page in particular, producer of all the Led Zeppelin albums, lead guitarist for Led Zeppelin, rock god, all of that, has literally remastered the 8 catalog Led Zeppelin albums like 4 times.
Yes,
The same stuff.
yes.
He remastered it in the early 90s because the format changed, dominant format changed from LP to CD. He remastered it again about 10 years later because the dominant format became digital. Then he turned around and remastered it again with additional outtakes and even a complete alternate version of an album. And I forget what the series was called, but I'll think of it. You can just look on Amazon. But it was basically like Houses of the Holy. First half of it is a remastered again album. The second half of it is like an alternate version, with studio outtakes and studio mixes of the same stuff. So, and that's just Led Zeppelin.
Mm-hmm.
And Prince has way, 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 way more material. And even on this iteration of this program, we talked about 4 songs that were offered to Bonnie Raitt, all of which were recorded in 1981 and 1981 controversy era.
Mm-hmm.
What do those original songs look like? So there's opportunity here. And I don't necessarily think that this has to be a one and done. But I do think that we're just going to have to really lean on Sony to do, what needs to be done to re-examine the other albums that didn't happen in the 1980s and the albums that happened in the 1980s that need additional focus. So there's that. But I think I guess the favorite song for me on.
First of all, start off. Which vault is your favorite? If you could only have one.
I kind of say this a little reluctantly, but it would have to be disc 1. It would have to be vault 1. I use the term reluctantly because I really like the alternate lyric version of Crucial. I like the quality version of The Ball that appear on in Train that appear on Vault 2. But yeah, I think Vault 1 is the winner here. The 79 version of I Can Never Take the Place of Your Man, the version of Power Fantastic that appears here, in a large room with no light. I think that's the clear winner.
All right, and then what songs what songs are you gonna go back to? Do you think?
It's gonna sound kind of bad, but I almost don't even need to play any of these songs anymore. In other words, I'm a really big fan of Colleen, which was released on the deluxe edition in 1999. And that's the thing where it's like, okay, I got to go back to there and to play that, Here, not so much. And that primarily has to do with because I've had this material for so long in different qualities. But I will say this. What would bring me back to this is the inclusion of a song that or rather the lack of the inclusion of a song on this set, which is the version of Witness for the Prosecution without horns and background vocals. And I've gone over that a myriad of times. And I think that if that was on this, that whatever disc it appeared on, that would be my disc. That would be what I come back to.
All right. Thank you so much, Arthur. Who wants to follow up?
I'll go. What are the questions again? I'm sorry.
So basically, out of the 3 vaults, which vault is your favorite? And then, are there any songs that what's gonna bring you back to this box set in terms of the vault track?
So I would say Disc 5 by Narrow Hair. I would say Disc 5 by Narrow Hair, just only because everybody want what they don't got. And The Ball, to me, kind of, and I like Cocoa Boys too, or Cuckoo Boys. I'm not really sure how we're doing that. And also, as far as bring me back, I categorize my stuff differently. So and I think I mentioned earlier, the way all of my playlists work is that I have the album followed by the B-sides, followed by all the songs that were released in that what I consider that time period of that album that didn't get released. So it won't be me going back to these vault songs. I'm just going to take those songs, right, that I like from this and put it in. And Sign of the Times is the only playlist that I do differently, that I'm going to decide either it's going to be on that Sign of the Times playlist of songs that didn't make Sign of the Times, or I have a separate called Crystal Ball playlist where everything that would have been, quote, Dream Factory, Camille, Crystal Ball that didn't get released kind of goes on that. And so, like I said, everybody want what they don't got, Blanche, Cosmic Day, those songs that I like. And as much as there were, right, a lot that I didn't like, again, I'll have those queued up, Walking in Glory. So I'll have those. They'll be either with my Sign of the Times playlist or they'll be with my Crystal Ball playlist. And then the stuff that I don't want, I just want out there here again. But I like what Nicolay said, I keep them for archival purposes.
Man, it's like the vault version of Emancipation, where it's like you could take 3 discs of Emancipation, whittle it down to one absolute masterpiece. And my masterpiece version would be different than C. Lee's, but there'd be a lot of overlap. That's what this is.
Right. That's the perfect way of saying it.
All right, Nicolay.
Yeah, I'm with Arthur on the first disc. Power Fantastic, I think, is for me sort of and again, this is just the duality that we're talking about, because Power Fantastic is not a Sign of the Times song or even era song to me, but just the sensation of hearing Prince instruct a band and hearing him at work is, I think that's what I'm hoping more and more and more of. Like you said, some of the different versions. I know that different takes and stuff in the case of Prince may not exist the same way as it did, for like a group like Led Zeppelin, where everything was, I mean, I think in the 80s at that point, you're already talking about technology that ultimately there's not going to be 4 or 5 takes of something, but there are going to be different moments in time where he will revisit a lot of these songs. And I really hope to hear a lot more of just the studio chatter, if you will, where that exists. And I really think that, for me personally, Large Room was sort of the jewel in the crown here. And there's a couple of more. I do think at the end of the day, we can only walk away from this just feeling grateful and happy that we get to hear stuff that honestly 10 years ago, there was no telling if we ever would. And now here we are. We're hearing stuff like When the Dawn of the Morning Comes and all that, mythical stuff. And as such, I love, even the Bonnie Raitt demos, like, because again, you're talking about, it's all coming from one man who I absolutely think was one of the most phenomenal creators of art in history. So even the stuff that I like less is still, incredibly important to me. And I don't want it to seem like I'm just sort of out here just trashing stuff. I have a very strong opinion about things, but it's all coming from love. This is the context of it is, a man who we love, his music who we love. So what Arthur said about Parade, it doesn't make me hopeful. I never thought of it that way. But after he said it last week, I'm like, wow, what if this was sort of the last hurrah for a while? In that case, if that is true, we have to look towards a future, I think, where they'll retry it again. As Arthur said, like even an artist like the Beach Boys, they've done maybe like 25 different remasters over time, and they do keep getting, better, quote unquote. But you're talking about music that was from the 60s, so like I do think we're on a little bit of a delay with Prince, where the next 10 years or something are going to be very interesting. I do think they'll ultimately revisit a lot of these. Maybe not the actual remaster, because that thing sounds like I mean, there's like I could not. The Sign of the Times remaster itself sounds exactly like I'd always imagined it, but I do see them kind of going back to these moments in time, and I've talked before about more like a timeline approach or a a multiple year spending things. I think we have to be hopeful, but like C. Lee said, we got to make sure that we kind of keep the pressure on in terms of like, look, we got to have, there's a certain set of ground conditions that do need to be met. And I think this is something where it could really be done by committee, versus just one or two people in key positions. But Power Fantastic is just to go back to that. I'll go back to that every week for a while, just because of the feeling it gives me. Just to hear him. It just that to me as that's exactly sort of the area of princedom, quote unquote, that I'm specifically interested in.
I was gonna say I was glad that Nicolay opened that door, because that's the next thing, because you guys know more about industry stuff than I do. What is it in the realm of possibility to create a contingent of folk or whatever you need to create to get to Sony early, to get to Sony before this is even on their desk, and to say not what Warner's did was terrible, but to get to them and say, here's how what was done could have been done better. And here's how the numbers say you can do this better and make money. And so I guess that's what I want to know from you guys. Is there, and I know that this is a little bit different than, say, what folks can do in academia and the literary world about showing up at textbook companies and saying, here, if you're going to do it ultimate Shakespeare right, don't just do the tragedies and the comedies, put all the tragedies and the comedies together. Or if you're just going to do Shakespeare's tragedies, well, then damn it, you need to put both the major and the minor tragedies in the same anthology. So what is that possibility of a contingency of people? How would you even go about doing that to get to Sony and say, this is what we would like to see done? Not that we think that we'll have, super impact. I wish we would, but just even say whose ear could you bend, or whose whatever you could do to whatever to say, here's how you guys can get this right.
I mean, if I can say one thing about that, like the Beach Boys as a thing, I'm a big Brian Wilson fan, so I kind of know how that world works. And there's maybe 10 people that I think are from a fan community, quote unquote, but that are considered to be, experts in the field. A lot of these guys are doing research to like session dates, because that's the big thing with music like that, who played on what and what day and how much they got paid. So I think they're doing that. They are actively talking to, in this case, I think it's Capitol Records. And so these fans have definitely been sort of accepted as scholars in the field, and they get involved in a lot of these archival releases, and in fact help write liner notes and stuff. So I think it's possible. I think that the main thing that we've got going against us is that Prince himself never really showed much interest in that part of the story. So we're kind of working against that. So Warner Brothers may not, Capitol Records might be much more open to something like that, just because they have been doing it for decades. I think with Prince it was always kind of sort of a no-go area, and I think that we're sort of working against that still right now. But I think why not? Why not listen to, not just one person, not even 10, but just a group where, people kick stuff around, correct each other's dates, all that stuff. I think that is sort of the key to success.
So one question. Oh, go ahead, Arthur.
Well, no, I mean, for me, it's ironic because I'm actually looking forward to seeing what Sony does with the next decade in the 90s. I'm one of the fans that are really, really, really hard on the 90s. But because Paisley Park was an operating studio and we no longer can just go to Sunset Sound and request dates and work orders and things like that. It's much more insular. It would be interesting to see how much unreleased material is actually there in that vault that was recorded around that time. I could see someone like Morris Hayes being really instrumental in being able to almost become Susan Rogers, because I mean, his tenure with Prince spans a couple decades. And I think that to Nicolay's point about Capitol being more amenable to taking the archival approach seriously, for lack of a better word, not to disparage Warner Brothers in that, but that's not necessarily their thing. Sony Legacy, that's definitely their thing. I know y'all probably sick of me referring back to Miles Davis box sets, but
no, we're not.
But you get it though, right? You get it. Yeah. It's like, I mean, my God, it's all this stuff, They definitely have the machine to be able to put out packages of Prince's 90s albums and maybe even find some gems, along the way. But I do agree that, I know I've said, you need a fan in the room. And I do feel that, you need an American Black man or woman in the room also to be able to provide some context to some of this, because, we needed Europeans to, and I mean, continent Europeans, I mean, not necessarily the white race in totality, to contextualize some of the Sign of the Times material, because especially the live stuff was performed overseas.
Right.
How was it performed? Where was it performed? What went back behind that? What, the minutia details that really enrich the experience for the listener. Because I mean, at this point, man, we're talking about history. We're talking about legacy. And it's very, very, very important to get it right. And it's very important that we have this history, really written by, that old saying, like, history is written by the victors. We need to be the victors in this, and having these different voices to be able to contextualize this correctly. Because, I mean, once it's done, it's done.
Now, I want to bring this question up that Audio Magic is asking, and we actually talked about this, I think, on the first After Salon, but how would you all feel about a more comprehensive digital release? It might be something to attempt to persuade the estate to do. It's easier.
Yeah, I think that's where the future is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Think so?
Yeah. Because if you take just the manufacturing layer away from the discussion, then all of a sudden there's no barriers. There's no discussion about, well, how many people are going to buy this, because you just don't have that overhead. And so that's what I'm hopeful for, that like that realm does provide, I think, sort of the next level up, which is like, contextualizing everything and against, in a timeline or something like that. And so I think digital is the future for that. Like, yes, I mean, these box sets are phenomenal, that book and stuff, but the costs that are involved is going to always give these record guys like heebie-jeebies. That's just how they work. They want to spend, they'd rather not spend anything and make a lot of money. So I think this is where I could see progress in the future. New masters, maybe. If it's not sort of beholden to some sort of like big sort of physical thing that has to sell, I can see subscription models, like similarly to back in the day. I could see, the sky's the limit. And I think a lot of people have adequate, internet connections at this point. So I think digital is honestly where the future lies. Also, I mean, people don't have CD players. I mean, I know, I had to, I had to reap these CDs, because it's like my car doesn't have a CD player anymore. My computers don't have a CD player anymore. It's like that is a wrap. Right. The vinyl is obviously still a thing that people like to get, but ultimately, I think digital is the future, even for stuff like this. And then you can have great, you can have high res files, right? You can have, high res, great sounding files. I think, that would be great.
Yeah. And even with the those who are looking for the box set, even with the digital, right? I'm thinking about how many people now, most of their photos are on their computers. Most of their photos are on. So, you know, it's one of those things, and it makes it easy to share photos, to share those kinds of things. So, you know, I'm one of those. I used to be one of those. I need a physical thing, but when I look at just the money and how much cheaper it is to do that, and how much cheaper it is, it's and also what it will do is making it digital, and depending on how it's packaged. Like one of the things I like to do with my live stuff, and I do this both video and audio. So them doing this digital would make it better for me. Like I have all of the Prince tours on audio and video, right? So I have all the tours. But what I love to do is say, if I take the 1999 tour, as we know, there are songs he did on one show he didn't do. So what I like to do is, once I have all my 1999 tours shows from that tour, I then create my ultimate 1999 tour playlist with all of the great songs, and then with that one gem that he only played on that one time. So I think that even digital not only will be less expensive, it'll also allow fans to kind of mix and match and create their own playlists in a way that the physicals don't allow us to do.
So, I mean, for me, I mean, I've said this before. I'm a physical person. Physical forms of media. I like the packaging. I love the liner notes, which are really important. Obviously, Prince Vault is a dream. If Prince Vault didn't exist, I don't know what kind of world this would be. And so that the Prince Vault alone is super, super, super important. So I hope, you know, that Prince Vault is able to continue forever in some form. Going back to having digital releases, I know that it would be very convenient, but I also think that there would be a lot of piracy, meaning just like, you know, giving people digital files. So I don't know how sustainable that model would be in terms of making money for the estate. And at the end of the day, it is all about money. Just, you know, so we can kind of continue getting some of this material. I won't go into much more than that. I do want to end by saying that for me, it is all about Vault Track 1 for so many different reasons. I mean, the box set alone is worth it for In a Large Room with No Light. The quality of In a Large Room with No Light alone is worth the box set. Number 2, what Nicolay said about Power Fantastic. Hearing Prince, you know, giving studio directions is super, super rare. You hear it within songs, you know, like within certain songs, you can hear it. But having that preface in the beginning is also like super, super important for me. And That Says What is a really powerful song. And so I actually will go back to this box set, actually more than 1999. In terms of the tracks. So I do think that, I mean, it's a really good box set for people who are into the Vault tracks. And I do love the Vault tracks, don't get me wrong, but it's just that I actually listen to the live stuff more than I listen to any of the studio stuff. I mean, I'm just a live head. I just love Prince live. And that's what's important to me. So I just want to remind everyone that this is not a symposium. This is not even what we did on October the 10th. This is an after salon. This is just a conversation between some of my nearest and dearest Prince friends. I am so happy that you guys have been spending your Saturday mornings with us, and we actually have 2 more Saturdays to go. So I'm sure some of you will continue to be with us. And again, we want to give a massive thanks to Arthur. It's always a pleasure to have Arthur in the house. Really, really appreciate it. And then obviously, Seeley. There's no one like Seeley.
I'm going to keep stretching and keep reaching.
Yes.
Get it?
And then Nicolay, it's just honesty. I love how opinionated you are. We are like-minded, even if we don't see. That's the thing people don't understand. We don't have to agree.
Right.
This is what it's all about. Again, and also I want to stress something that you said earlier. It's so important. We are doing this out of love.
Right.
When we are giving constructive criticism, it's not because we don't like the estate. We love the estate because they're giving us what we want, which is more Prince material. We want Prince to remain on the lips of the children.
Right.
And in order for that to happen, the estate has got to do what it's doing. So we do appreciate it. It's just that when it came to Sign of the Times, which I consider Prince's masterpiece, which I consider Prince's return to himself, and we're getting this alternate narrative, I don't know what's going on. I mean, I got a problem with that.
All 25 clowns in the car.
They fit if you push hard enough.
That's the problem that I have, and that there wasn't really a real focus on the new band, the new era. It was like a lot of that was just like a little crumb, they threw us a little crumb, and there was so much more than that. The absence of Sheila E. from this narrative has been like mind-boggling to me. It's because she served as the musical director, particularly for the tour when Prince wasn't around, and it was an incredible time. And then I think of someone like my nephew, who would probably never listened to Prince, but because he's so into his rap and his hip hop. But if the youngins want to listen to Prince, I think it's really important that they have the whole context of what Prince is doing. And again, that's one of the reasons why it pains me about the 1999 box set that the Time and Vanity 6 are not represented, because there's a whole part of the narrative that's being left out, and that is such a massive part of the narrative. The same way I personally think that Madhouse is a huge part of the Sign of the Times, what I call the Prince flood. I mean, you could even put some Jill Jones alternate tracks on here. I would have been happy, because it would have been like 1987 when Sign of the Times was released. That's what I wanted. So we will continue next week. I hope some of you will come back with us, and we're going to talk about Sign of the Times live. So we are going to be in our element. We are going to miss Arthur, but that's okay. We'll have to just deal with it. But Harold Pratt and Camila will be joining us, so it will be some more new voices. So I hope everyone has a fantastic day.
Hey, thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. It's always good to see you, Celie, Nicolay. Thank you.
You too, good
Thank
brother.
you, man.
Thank you. And I just got to say hi, Baron. I miss you so much.